Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today for the conclusion of my summer project pan. So I'm in Australia, so we've just gone through summer, we're now into autumn, and I decided this year to do 4 capsule project pans, so mini versions of project pans, where I can kind of focus on products that are sort of seasonal. So I might be going for more bronzy sort of products, more darker foundations to use up, you know, more sort of summery colors in the summer project pan, and then move on to more like autumn fall colors. Because one thing that I always find a problem with when it comes to colored products is often I just get sick of that sort of color for the season that I'm in. So this year I wanted to sort of do little capsule project pans. So this is the conclusion of the first one, and then right after this I'm going to film the introduction for my autumn project pan, but I'll put that up next week so I can give myself a week's break to just use whatever I want to use. Okay, so I'm going to run through all the products that I've featured in my project pan. Some of these I have already put in my empties and thrown out because I used them over the last couple of months, but I'm just going to run through. I'm going to show you photos on the screen of like the progress that I had, what I'm up to now, and sort of how I went overall. So the first thing that I had on my list was a NYX matte finish spray. Now that was mainly because I have quite oily skin, so matte works really well in summer. I finished that up pretty quickly. I think that was done really quickly, so that was really easy to pan. Then I also panned my Urban Decay All Nighter foundation. I went for this one because the shade is a little bit too dark for me, and I didn't have too much left. It was a nice filming foundation, but if I tried to use this in winter, it just was going to be too dark. So I used it up pretty quickly as well. I think it took me a couple of months because I mainly only use it when I'm filming, because it looks really nice on camera, but it doesn't hold up very well on my skin. So yeah, that was that. Then more recently, I used up my L'Oreal Glam Beige. This is the Healthy Glow foundation. I did use this up last week. Actually, I was away in Adelaide, and I was very sad to see that this was done. I really like this as a really light foundation, but what I particularly liked it with was mixing it with another foundation, a more higher coverage matte one, to sort of just soften it a little bit, to take down the coverage a little bit, to take down the matteness a little bit, and I thought they worked really well together. So I'm actually very sad to see this go. Now in the last month as well, I did use up my Stila bronzer. This has been in the project pan since the start. When I did introduce this, I had already hit pan, so I wanted to use it all up, and I have used it up. I did have to repress it, so it's completely clean. I repressed it and just kind of focused it in the middle and pressed it a little bit softer so it was easier to pick up the product and use it. So I did use that up, so that is done. I used up my Rimmel Scandaleyes bronze eyeliner. It's a really nice formula, but I just didn't love the color, so it was pretty easy to use up. A really stubborn one that there's a little bit left, but it's a real struggle to get out, is my Makeup Forever Aqua Brow. So you can see that throughout the whole thing, I started up there, I worked my way down, and now I'm right down the bottom there. I have been using this, but it takes me, like, I need to really squeeze it out, and it's to a point where there's such little product in there that it's a real struggle to get it out. So I'm going to say that this is done, and I'm really happy to see it go. It's very old, it's a nice product, but it is getting way too old for me, and I have struggled through this big time. So that one is done. Another product that I don't have here currently is the fragrance that I used up. So I used up Pink Honey by Marc Jacobs. I am trying to use up a fragrance, like an old fragrance that I've had in my collection, in every single project pan, and I did that at last check-in, so I was very happy to see that go. There are 3 cheek products that I have hit pan on. I'm very happy that I've done that because it is a big feat to use up a blush, and I actually had 2 in this project pan, which is very silly of me. I had the Majorette blush, which is a cream blush from Benefit. It's a really beautiful peach. That's what I'm up to, so I used, like, I've hit pan on it. There's not too much left. It's literally like scraping in the pan, and there's part of me that wants to throw this out, but there's part of me that really likes the effect of it, so I might just keep it for a little bit. But if I don't use this up by the end of the year, I'm getting rid of it, but I have definitely hit some good pan on it. Then earlier in the project pan, I did hit pan on my Sleek Rose Gold blush. If I was to pan this whole blush, it would take me over a year. This is actually a really old blush. I've had it for a long time. I've taken this traveling with me, so for weeks on end it's been my only blush that I've used, so I knew that I could use it every day because I really enjoy it. It did take me a couple months to finally hit pan on it, and when I did start this, it had a really big dent in it. So a lot of people were like, good luck with that. I've been using that for 6 months and I still haven't hit pan. Luckily, I had actually used this a lot in the past, so I did see that it had a dent in it and I did know that I could hit pan. I might still try to work on that maybe later in the year, but right now I want a bit of a break. And then the highlighter that I was focusing on was a Colourpop one. This is a Super Shock Cheek in the shade Might Be. Now this is really, really beautiful. You can see I have hit pan just in there. This is like a moussey product, so I'm going to try to expose the pan a bit more. So there you can see, hopefully. But I really enjoyed using this, and I loved using it in conjunction with this blush. So what I would do was I'd get a stippling brush, I'd put it in the blush, I'd sort of work it on my cheeks, and then I would dab it into here and work it on the top part. This is way too dark for my skin, so I need to wear it with a more bronzed sort of skin, which is what I've been doing, and I'm happy with my progress. I would like to finish this up eventually, but it's getting into the cooler weather and there is no way I'm going to be able to use this up just yet. It's also quite nice on the eyes. It does crease a little bit, but it's nice for like inner corner pop of color. So I use this in various different ways. Nice product. Okay, the last product that I think I successfully completed, but I will carry it over to my next project pan, was my MAC paint pot. I do know that it takes about a year to use up a MAC paint pot. I've done it before, and this one is in Utterly Becoming. It's very much like Painterly, but it was a limited edition one, and I have actually hit pan on it. So for me, I'm like, that's what I sort of wanted to do in this project pan. I'm not sure if you can see the pan. It's quite a lot of pan, but I am going to continue this into my next project pan so I can continue to use it and eventually use it all up. The products that I sort of failed at, but I'm happy to continue them on, or at least two of them. One is a concealer. This is by MAC. This is a Pro Longwear concealer. I like this concealer and it works best on me when I'm a little bit more tanned, because it's quite yellow toned and in winter it looks a little bit funny. But I got it down to, I'm not sure if you can see, I got it down to that bottom grey mark. This was beautifully, like, it was on my desk and it had a beautiful line, but then when I put it in the box to bring here to film, it fell on its side, so it's not as clean and as beautiful. But you can see that I introduced it a month into my project pan, so that's why it doesn't have the red mark at the top. And I've used quite a lot of it. So I did describe my struggles with this last check-in, which was pretty much when I was using this before I decided to introduce it into my project pan, and it was like towards the top, and then when I introduced it, it was down there. So I used up heaps. I'm like, this is going to be easy to use up in a few months. But then what happened was I really didn't like that I was using too much product, because the pump pumps out way too much. So when I figured out how to pump like half pumps, the progress was a lot slower. But I don't want to waste the product, so I'm kind of happy to introduce it into my next project pan instead of just trying to use it up for the sake of using it up, because it's a nice concealer. So I will be carrying this over into my next project pan, and I'm confident that I'll use it up within a few months. The last thing that I'm carrying over to my next project pan is actually my mattifying primer from Makeup Forever. This, you need to use the smallest amount. It's very hard to use it up very quickly, and I did introduce this later in the project pan. I didn't introduce it from the very start because I thought I wasn't going to use up all the products I needed to use up, and then when I saw that I was making some decent progress, I added in a few more things like that concealer and this one. If you can see, I was up to there when I sort of started, so it was virtually full. I'm down to here now, so it's going to take quite a few months to use it up. I like this primer. It's a nice mattifying primer, and if you use it sparingly, I find it works even better, so I'm happy to take it slow with this one. The last product that I sort of failed with, but I could have completed, I'm just holding off, so hear me out. So this is the Hylamide, what is it called? The Photography Foundation. Now when I introduced this into my project pan, it was nearly up to the top. So that purple mark up there, it was right up to the top. Okay, I'm kicking myself over this one because I forgot to mark it. and it was perfectly lined, so you can see where it was up to, but once again this fell over as well. So this is the last thing that I'm not carrying over to my next project pan, and it's also something that I didn't complete, but I'll tell you why. So this is the Illamasqua Photography Foundation. Now when I did introduce this, it was way up there. I had barely touched it, I didn't like it. It didn't work well on my face. If I used this sort of as a bronzing sort of primer, it would make my foundation a little bit like bally and funny, but I noticed that this was really great on the body. So if I was going out and I didn't want to fake tan, this was a really nice way to bronze your legs, because doesn't transfer onto clothes, and also it's got a bit of shimmer in it, so it's not like a highlighter, but it adds like a healthy glow and a bronze to your legs. So that's how I use this up. So first check-in, or when I introduced this, which was the second month in, I was nearly up to the top of that label. Then I used only a small amount. I think I used it on my legs maybe once. But then I took this to Adelaide with me, and it was quite warm in Adelaide. I was wearing like a dress most of the time. So I actually got it down at like that white line. Now I could have used it up just using it like on a daily basis, because you can use quite a lot of this on your legs at any one time, but I've got a few events that are coming up this week and next week, and I thought, bugger it, I'm actually going to save this and use this instead of a fake tan on my legs. So it is, yeah, down to that sort of white line, and I've saved it for a reason. It's a very nice bronzer on the legs, and I didn't want to just waste it by using it around the house, so I'm going to use this over the next couple of weeks. So I finally got this to settle, and you can see it's well below that white part, so I used up quite a lot since I started putting it on my legs. Alright, so that is the conclusion of my summer project pan. I think I've done a good job. I used up 2 foundations, I used up a bronzer, I've hit pan on 2 blushes, a highlighter. I used up a brow product that I had for ages and ages and ages. And I think I used up a fragrance setting spray. So I've done a lot of, in my opinion, some good work over the last few months. So I do have some stuff for my autumn project pan, but I thought it's best to split this into 2 videos before it gets too complicated. So that was my conclusion of my project pan. So there were 3 products that I didn't complete, but the majority I did. So I think that was quite a successful project pan. The one that I failed miserably on was this one, but I'm happy to carry it over to next month. When it comes to the Illamasqua foundation and the concealer, if I used this to excess, which I could have done, I could have easily used these up, but I decided that they both have some good purposes. I like them both for particular reasons, like this is great on the body, not great on the face. So what I will do is I will use this up just over the next 2 weeks, and this one I'll carry over as well. So some were failures, but that was more because I didn't want to waste them. Alright, hopefully that was moderately interesting. I do know a lot of people are sort of on the project pan bandwagon, so stick with it. It's really good to be able to use up products that you have and no longer really want. I think it's a really great thing to do. It makes you realize how long it takes to use up products, so it will kind of curb your spending a little bit. Like if you know that you have 6 foundations, but you know it takes you 6 weeks to use them up, you can make a judgment on whether you want to buy a newer one or if you want to use up a couple before you do that. And I think it's a really good way to just start using your makeup. So yeah, I love project pans. I also have been tallying up the amount of products that I've used up in my empties. So the products that I've used up now, they will go into my next empties, and I'm doing running totals of how, like the dollar value of what I've been using up this year. And at the end of the year, I'm going to do a breakdown of like how many foundations, how many moisturizers, how many X, Y, and Z that I've used up, because I thought that would be interesting to do. So yeah, this year for me, trying to use shit up, get shit done. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and tune in next week for my introduction for my autumn project pan. See you guys.